Well, hello there and welcome to the candy wallpapered upstairs hallway of the dollhouse for another reading from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gabor Goldschneider and Just Elpers for March 3rd, the day of design. That's right. And here at the top of the page is a visual representational image of the day of design. Well, we have us an image of, what could it be? Boom, it appears to be an ocarina. That's right. Hey, you know what? A lot of times these images are a little bit enigmatic. You can't really make any associations of what they are or what they're supposed to represent. That said, I don't know if the ocarina speaks to the day of design, though somebody had to design it at some point. Am I right? That's right. That said, visual representational image aside, a lot of times it doesn't necessarily have any influence on the read itself. I just like folks to know what's going on the page in front of me. So you hear a little bit of the dynamics going on off screen, so you're a part of them. That said, what's important around these here parts, not the visual representational image, but the fact that it's March 3rd and it's somebody's birthday. So if your birthday's March 3rd, I just want to say happy birthday. That's right. That's what's important around these here parts. That said, maybe this video finds you late, and if that's the case, I just want to say, hey, I hope you had a happy birthday. All right. But for everybody else who's joining us randomly, or more ideally, they're here to celebrate the March 3rd birthday, I just want to say hello, welcome, and I hope you enjoy yourself. That's right. Now, before I dive in with the redirect, something I like to take a moment or two to do, a couple minutes if you like, and that is roll some dice. That's right. This is the Diecast or birthday broadcast, so I like to live up to the namesake, but I do so more importantly for synchronicity's sake. And here I rolled us a 5 and a 1 for a 6. All right, now what is synchronicity, you're probably wondering? Well, my friends, as I often hear it told, the universe or the higher powers that be will oftentimes put things in our path to help us manifest our goals or realize our aspirations. But a lot of times we're getting on in this life, we're very narrow or singular of focus. That's right, we got the blinders on to what's going on around us a lot of the time. Doesn't mean we don't see such things, we might just not lend them a lot of credence. So this is a little bit of an exercise to help you take those blinders off and hopefully see the things that the universe is putting down in your path for you. But what does that mean? How do we do this? Well, we need some kind of sign that's, say, mutually agreed upon between us and the universe, if you like. So what could that be? That's right, your daily numbers. Now, you don't have to go with the numbers I rolled for you. The intention is there, but it's probably advisable you take your own set of dice if this is something you want to try doing. Ascribe directional values to number sets as well as time limits with which to go in those directions. And so once you've got all that figured out, I don't know, pick a place near and dear to your heart, or perhaps some place that you want to go explore that maybe you haven't seen before. But once you get out there, head on out, but get those blinders off, like I said, because you never know, the day might start to take on a little bit of a theme. Getting after these numbers, being on the lookout for them, hey, be on the lookout for just about anything. You might see they start popping up all over the place, but who's to say what that might be? Take the ocarina, for instance. I don't know if I've ever seen one out in the wild, but hey, you know what? You might just start to see something like that. It might not necessarily be an ocarina specifically, but hey, maybe it's like somebody playing a flute, a recorder. Was it at a woodwind, perhaps? Maybe they're just popping up all over the place, all right? That would be an example of that. That said, you get out there on this first directional value time limit. Hey, maybe you're not seeing anything out of the ordinary. Just the everyday goings on. Maybe you're getting a little dissuaded that nothing's just popping off at you. Hey, you know what? Take a little bit of time for such things to happen. Open yourself up to things maybe not happening, and you're just out here getting your steps in, and things might just start to come to you. That said, maybe you take a step back, look around, see what you see, and maybe you just so happen to notice, I don't know, maybe you just so happen to be on old 51st Avenue or 6th Street. I don't know. I would take that as a sign you're on the right track, all right? So roll yourself another directional value time limit. Head on out. Maybe at the end of this particular little stretch, I don't know, maybe you find yourself in front of a building and it just so happens to have, 51 in the address. You know what? Take that as a sign as well. Maybe go in that building. Maybe you just so happen to notice it's a woodwind shop. There you go. There's your theme. You got your flutes. Maybe they have some ocarinas. I don't know if you're in the market for such things. Probably not. Let's leave with the assumption you're not. You go in, nobody else is in the store except for the person managing it, and they ask you if they can help you. You know what? Just be forthright, honest what you're doing, even though it sounds a little bit harebrained. No, sir or ma'am, I'm just here on account of synchronicity. What are you talking about? I don't have anything like that. Well, yeah, I got some ocarinas, but no synchronicity. You know what? Show them this video, show them the dice, explain to them it's your birthday. You're just trying to stir things up, see what the universe has in store for you. They might think it's crazy. You know what? You're probably apt to agree with them. But they might say, no, you know what's even crazier? It's my birthday too. Oh, I often like to use that example because, you know what, it seems something outlandish, but it's not outside the realm of possibility. So if you're out there in the world, just try and start stacking up those coincidences, those synchronicities, if you like. And if you see such things, I think you have to agree it's a little bit of magic there going on for you, all right? So see what you can see. Maybe you get back out of that shop. Maybe the person's apt to close it on down and join you on your journey. And you know what? As I hear it told, the more people who are focused on the same things, getting out there drumming up some synchronicities, some coincidences, if you like, you're more apt to see better results. Who's to say? Maybe you start seeing bus ads for ocarinas, all right? Maybe they do a rehash on that video game, Nintendo there, Link in the Ocarina of Time. Something like that. It doesn't have to be the real woodwind. It can be advertisements, imagery, whatever. Just take note of it and take it as a sign the universe is with you on your path. All right, I think you get the idea. Let's get on with the birthday read. That's why you're here. Your month is March, your day is the 3rd, your sign is 11 to 13 degrees Pisces of the Pisces II period specifically, and your quality and element is mutable water. All right, March 3rd, the day of design. Those born on March 3 usually have a pretty clear picture in their minds of what they wish to accomplish. And although highly imaginative, they have a firm, pragmatic side that enables them to put their ideas into practice. And unlike those who seek acclaim or reward before finding a way to be useful, they recognize first a substantive need and then apply whatever talents they have to provide for that need. Not only able to see the big picture, those born on this day are capable of focusing on details as well. And it doesn't hurt that their visual skills are generally well developed. March 3 people are usually socially involved in their work and, as mentioned, pragmatic. Yet they may feel a need to live a highly private life, even secretive, away from their career. And those born on this day can be prone to escapism, whether they lose themselves in an earthly world of sensation or a romantic world of imagination. Nonetheless, successful March 3 people are able to neatly balance their public and private lives, not allowing either to dominate at the expense of the other. And whether more social or reserved types, most March 3 people are taken up with plans and designs. The need to prepare carefully for eventualities is highly characteristic of those born on this day, and they usually examine a problem minutely before acting. And indeed, many March 3 people enjoy the planning more than the execution of an endeavor. But because they put so much energy into these formal constructions, they run at least 2 dangers. The first being getting bogged down in the planning phase and losing the motivation to act. The second is losing a sense of spontaneity and thus deadening the experience itself. And perhaps facing disappointment by having too many preconceptions about what is going to happen. But it is difficult it is difficult for many March 3 people to make up their minds about what course to pursue. They are often better off just making a decision and getting on with it, rather than endlessly weighing alternatives and not acting on them. March 3 people often become overly absorbed in what they do. And though their activities give them great satisfaction, they may be avoiding the underlying reason why they lose themselves in this way. Perhaps some born in this day have an actual dislike or discomfort with their own personality due to an overly critical parent or social pressures in their childhood. And it is important that such March 3 people learn to like themselves more, not just for what they do, but for who they are. And gaining such a sense of wellness and security will also aid them greatly in their career, lending them the confidence needed to follow through on their plans and make a success of themselves. All right, I'll tell you what, I liked this birthday breakdown for a whole host of various reasons. Not to say too much about it because I'll burn down the commentary I like to provide, but I felt like it was really well rounded, and I say that because a lot of these birthday breakdowns since back past the beginning of Capricorn have been very hyper-focused, and they don't necessarily round out the day at large. That said, maybe, thinking back on it, maybe it wasn't the most well-rounded, but it certainly seemed that way. And I say well-rounded because a lot of the times they'll dive into what you're like as friends, family, maybe even parents. Sometimes they even say parents of the person in question, and they might give them some advice as to how to treat those particular individuals. So we didn't see a lot of that, but boy, it felt well-rounded with how thoroughly they expanded out into a lot of the different areas that they brought up. That being said, like I mentioned, I like to provide a little bit of a commentary on what we read, maybe make connotations with the period at large, things that I found interesting, and just a little bit of a rehash on what we mentioned. All right, so let's dive into it. All right, March 3rd, the day of design. You usually have a pretty clear picture in your mind of what you wish to accomplish, and you're said to be highly imaginative with a pragmatic side that bolsters your ability to manifest your ideas. You're also said to not only be able to see the big picture, but the finer details as well, which probably lends in no small part to being able to identify areas with substantive needs and then apply your talents to provide for it. And I particularly appreciate this facet of being unlike those who seek acclaim before finding a way to be useful. How many people do we know who just want that notoriety before they've even provided a service, all right, or a function in this life? So it sounds to me like you're someone who wants to provide that need before they even know what the need is. I think that's pretty novel, all right, or noble perhaps. That said, you may be, or it says, in addition to your pragmatic lean, you may be very private, all right, even secretive individuals outside your career, and you have a capacity for escapism, whether in earthly matters or higher idealed romanticism, which is a bit of a deviation for the period writ large. Okay, most folks have their head in the clouds, or they're focused on that romanticism itself and how it then defines their life, and they go after that. But here you're a little bit more grounded, so you have your feet in both camps, and they said you're well balanced with both of them, and that's also something that's not particularly normal for this period. All right. The potential reasons for as much for having these grounded ideals, and also head for the romantic there, we'll address here shortly as we get on with the read a bit more. But having said that, the reading claims those March 3 people who are successful typically have an ability to balance those two dynamics. Balance being a key watchword for the book in general, as well as moderation. All right. From here, the reading makes a point of examining the tendency to be reserved and possess a penchant for planning and preparing for things before you act, which, taken at face value, I would say that's a great quality. But with regard to balance, again, it can be the enemy of spontaneity or even the execution of said plan. An element that I myself know all too well, all right? An unexpected plan is ultimately just a dream put to paper, I would say. An executed plan, rather. It's just a dream put to paper. If it even gets out of your head, all right? So I appreciate this better off getting on with the pursuit idea that they advanced in the book, even if it ends up flying in the face of the plan, because it isn't perfect, I would say. Sometimes we just got to get into it, all right? Put it out there. It may just be time to get it out there so one can move on, all right? Get on to better things. Stop thinking about that same said thing. The reading goes on to culminate the breakdown with an examination into overabsorption and the root of as much potentially being rooted in a dislike or a discomfort with one's self. That's very interesting. I don't know that I've necessarily seen it phrased that way or have seen it necessarily come up all that often in the period. Despite getting things done due to losing oneself in their endeavor, wellness, security, and one's life in general stand to improve if self-awareness is further endorsed. All right. Self-awareness is another thing that the book drills down on quite a bit. So I wouldn't poo-poo it. We got to discover ourselves, get to know ourselves a bit better, so then we can then make better decisions as we get on with life. And that's just part and parcel with the whole living aspect there. But you'd be surprised. A lot of people don't do as much if the book isn't earmarked for as much, because a lot of people get this recommendation. But some don't. Some have a penchant for being well versed in figuring those things out, apparently. So it's pretty interesting. What else do we have to say here? It also allows you to cultivate more confidence, and you know what? There's a large deficit of that in a lot of cases too. But you'd be surprised to find out some folks need to tamper it down a little bit. But apparently not here. That's not the case for you. That's a rarer kind of thing, the folks that need to pull it back. All right. What else do we have to say here? So it's a constant process, but I would also argue it's a worthwhile endeavor. Considering the benefits. And that's right, the benefits being you and your life, all right, your wellness. It's also something that's been coming up a lot this period, like I said, getting that self-awareness going and cultivating a little bit of confidence. That said, that's what I'd say about the breakdown. So let's move on to your numbers and your planets. That's right, let's get into a little bit of astrology and numerology, if you like. See what the book has to say. All right. Those born on the 3rd of the month are ruled by the number 3 in the planet Jupiter. And though those ruled by the number 3 tend to rise to the highest positions in their particular sphere, March 3 people are influenced by Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, and can thus be indecisive and overly passive at critical times. A Jupiter-Neptune connection, however, grants highly spiritual or religious ideals and probable financial success. All right, pretty interesting, even though this was a pretty concise numbers and planets entry. A lot of times I'd say it's at least 2 or 3 more sentences. So, but in any event, hey, maybe I can pick up a little bit of the slack here and drill down a little bit more on the details. All right. Your numbers and planets. The number 3 in the expansive planet Jupiter for drive to rise to the top, but also an expansive philosophical outlook that's mentioned elsewhere in the book in other number 3 days. There's also optimism baked into the bargain and a pursuit of the most positive, constructive approach to solving problems. Also mentioned elsewhere. And it sounds just like who is described in the breakdown, I would say. As coupled with the planet Neptune, the watery planet of dreams and visions, you're said to benefit in areas of spiritual ideals and financial success, which is interesting. Jupiter is also said to impart a little bit of luck. And on days where Uranus in particular are coupled with Jupiter, financial luck in a lot of cases. But here you get a little bit of that as well, it sounds like, even though they didn't mention luck specifically. Coupling, I would also argue, lends to the previously mentioned ability to be grounded, but also geared for the higher ideals of romanticism. The earthly nature largely lacking with a lot of the other Neptune-ruled days. And what's also lacking here is a commitment to a cause. Not to say that you're not committed to something, but commitment to cause is basically the theme of not just Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, but the Pisces in general. They just keep getting commitments to cause. And so it's very seldom you get onesie-twosies folks who are more focused on themselves. And I get a little bit more of that inkling here in this particular read for you. Though I think it's a bit more of a balance versus the folks who are hyper-focused on just themselves. But hence another case for the benefits of balance, all right? The others being far too focused on higher ideals, like I said, which makes them come away from other areas of their life due to commitments to cause. All right, I think I covered all that in my ad-lib, but that said, that's what I had to say about your numbers and your planets, so let's move on to your tarot. That's right, one of the more eclectic of the New Age metaphysical ideologies. But hey, it's here in the book. We don't have to take it home with us to start dealing out the cards to predict our future or however they're used. So let's see what it has to say and then leave it in the book. A lot of times we can draw more connotations. Sometimes not, but sometimes we can. So let's dive into it, all right? The third card of the major arcana is the Empress, symbolizing creative intelligence. She is the perfect woman, the ultra-feminine Mother Earth nurturer, who is our dreams made real and our hopes and aspirations embodied. And the Empress represents positive traits of charm, grace, and unconditional love, and negative traits of vanity and affectation, as well as intolerance for imperfection. All right, very interesting. Okay, what I have to say about the tarot card. This one was a pretty boilerplate copy-paste job. They didn't really impart anything personally for you, which, is often the case. But once in a while, they'll button something on there. Sometimes they say it stands as an example for the person to live up to because they may not have those things in their life. Here I didn't necessarily get that, but hey, maybe I'm burning down what I have to say. Let's get into it. The Empress for dreams made real and aspirations embodied. All right. The marriage of dreams and execution, speaking to the day right off the bat. All right. Your planning stage and your execution stage. With positives of charm, grace, and unconditional love. Which also speaks to the Neptune quality of a strong magnetic influence that's capable of dissolving rigid and absolute natures that I forgot to mention as I broke down Neptune for you. Even if you're largely private individuals. But negatives of vanity and artificial behavior that's used to impress, or the affectations, they said. Also an intolerance for imperfection. The latter of which I say speaks to the planning, but not the execution, all right? Assuming the breakdown applies. But just mind the others also, I would say, especially if you cultivate any kind of notoriety for your work, all right? I'd be a rather apt card in that case, too, I would argue, all right? So don't hit those pitfalls of those folks who is chasing the acclaim before providing any kind of value. You start drawing up that vanity and what was the other one? Affectation, that false behavior to impress folks. Hey, I would say that's the kind of thing baked in with those folks who want to just get the fame before providing anything of value. So avoid that like the plague, I would say. All right. That said, that's been your tarot. Let's move on to your health. All right. Those born on March 3 generally have a strong physical nature in addition to their visual and conceptual abilities. They sometimes overdo activities, however, due to the fact that their mind drives them too hard and pushes their body beyond what they can handle. Therefore, those born on this day must beware of exhausting themselves and thus lowering their immunity to disease. Regular exercise within reasonable limits is recommended rather than going overboard a few times a month or year on highly strenuous endeavors. March 3 people may be accident prone and must be particularly aware of doing damage to their lower limbs and feet. They should be on the lookout for unseen complications, of which they will usually have some warning if they are tuned in and observant enough. Consumption of fats and harmful additives should be limited, but not at the expense of their spontaneous appetite, which can be adversely affected by too much structure in planning meals. All right. A very highly personalized health entry, I would argue. A lot of times they covered basically all the bases, but they didn't get into too much detail with regards to their typical format. But here I would say they deviated quite a bit to talk about things that were a little bit more specific with you, which made it highly personalized. That said, let's get back into the notes here. You're said to be have a strong physical nature that coupled with your visual and conceptual ability. You may be apt to overdo things, driving yourself beyond what your body can handle. So be aware of exhausting yourself and your immunity. I would say that's a striking anomaly for this period. I don't remember anybody else getting like they're broken down as saying they overdo it, all right? And so maybe you should be more mindful of pulling back a little bit in certain circumstances. But, you know, if it's like folks that go to church only on the holidays, that kind of sounds like how you treat exercise there. So, yeah, you got to be a little bit moderate. We mentioned moderation there being a watchword for the book at large. There you go. I would say definitely take that into consideration. So, a reasonable exercise regimen is recommended. And usually the book will drill down on a quality of the exercise to say vigorous or moderate to light. But here yours was a little more specific to say keep it conceivable. Don't go crazy with it. You also may be accident prone, surprisingly, which only usually presents for a Mercury ruled day. The adventure seekers, if you like. But this has popped up occasionally in this period otherwise. So not together all too rare in that respect. No specific food recommendations for you outside of limiting fat and harmful additives like alcohol and drugs. And I'm assuming that that's with regard to the escapist tendencies. That usually gets brought up for that because I think it drives people down into a depression, if you like. Other days it's come up with such things because they got the sensitive hearts. But that's not a body area for Pisces, so I'm more apt to lean towards the escapism type thing. You may want to moderate dairy fats, however, because the lymphatic system is one of the Pisces body areas. And the dairy and the milk can kind of get the mucus building up and doing bad things for you. You want to keep those lymph nodes flowing, keeping those things going right there. Human beings don't have a secondary heart that just pumps those exclusively like some other animals. So we got to be moving and grooving to get those lymph nodes circulating stuff. But plenty of rest might also be in the cards for you too, considering Neptune. But Jupiter may kind of curb that a little bit, who's to say. But most Neptune days get a little bit of a rest recommendation. Also to help promote their dream time, which is just for Neptune days. So maybe think about that as well. That having been said, that's essentially your health breakdown and what I had to say about it. So let's move on to some advice. That's right. Here we go. Get to know yourself better, all right? And if you don't like what you find, do something about it. Don't let a self-critical attitude hamper you, all right? Also, beware of making plans without setting reasonable deadlines, all right? There is time to take action. All right. Hey, I liked this one for you. Bit redundant. They're going over the things that we've already kind of talked about. But hey, you know what? A lot of times that's what the advice does. It reframes things or it reiterates them because sometimes we got to hear it that 38th time before we caught into it for whatever reason. Or sometimes we got to hear it in a unique way before we realize the value of it. Who's to say? But what did I have to say about what they had to say? All right. Get to know yourself better. All right. Huge advice. All right. Cultivate self-awareness. We've discussed that. It also builds confidence. All right. It's very valuable. And if you don't like something, execute a change. Don't just plan it. All right. Which dovetails nicely with not letting your critical attitude hamper you. All right. Sometimes we just got to do the thing. Get it out there. So more making plans with deadlines, all right? Get things out there. Redundancies, again, to get you to buck the trend, all right? Planning must be quite the influence on you, from the sounds of it. They also said there's a time to take action. You know what? Sometimes it might fly right by you, all right? Maybe you missed your opportunity, so don't get too bogged down in the weeds. I also said affect the change even if it's not perfectly planned, all right? You move on to the next thing. Boom. Maybe get used to that so that you know how to maybe get things out the chute a little bit quicker. And the other thing, too, maybe you didn't execute it perfectly. Hey, you know what? This day and age, there's always a time for a reboot, all right? You might find that the people like the one that wasn't all that perfect when you do get the perfect one out there. Who's to say? That said, that's been your advice. So let's move on to your meditation. That's right. It's your birthday. You get a little something to think on. All right, your meditation. The grand pattern of the universe is God's design. All right, one more time. The grand pattern of the universe is God's design. All right, it's your birthday, your meditation. I'm not going to throw my spin on it. I don't want to influence it for you one way or the other. It would kind of defeat the purpose of a meditation. But that having been said, your meditation in the can, as it were, let's move on to your strengths and your weaknesses. That's right. Let's see where you got the girth and where you otherwise a little more atrophied, if you like. Your strengths, you're directed, you're conceptual, and you're well prepared. All right, that's right. Well prepared. I think that might be a first one that's come up. But your weaknesses, oh, let's find out where you're deflated. There you go. Your weaknesses. You're biased, interesting, compulsive, and self-unaware. I don't know that I picked up on these so much. Maybe a little bit in a roundabout way of looking at it. But interesting. You know, a lot of times I like to argue our weaknesses, hey, they can sometimes be strengths. It just depends on the situation, how we frame it, all right? There was one day, a couple months back, impulsive popped up as a strength, and the very next day was traded to a weakness. It also just depends on the individual and how they use it. That said, I like to argue that we can use our strengths to overcome our weaknesses if there's something we want to improve upon. You're directed. Hey, you're going to know where to take your focus and to put it if you want to improve on something specific. You're conceptual. Hey, you're going to come up with some novel ideas to how to approach improving upon it. And well prepared. Well, hey, we know you like to plan, so you're going to get everything, all your ducks in a row to do as much. That said, how can our weaknesses be strengths? You know, the past week or so, I've been having a hard time making my case. But let's see what I can do with your weaknesses. You're biased. Hey, you know what? I can kind of see where that's a negative thing writ large. I don't know that I picked up that you were biased in the breakdown. Maybe I just wasn't reading between the lines hard enough. It says you got the big picture and the details. Maybe I missed something. But it says you're biased. You know what? I think if you have that capacity, but we build upon it, you know what, that's perfect because you're going to be able to see things in a very binary way, on, off, ones and zeros, all right? And if we're able to buck that and recognize it, we can use it to our benefit to say, like, you see how the fundamentals of things. And, you know, a lot of people see bias as a bad thing. In a lot of cases it is, but it can be used as a strength, I would say, because you're able to recognize things for what they are at the root, all right? Now, it's whether you're leaning into those things in a negative sort of way that makes it a weakness, I would say. So don't let it take a hold of you and influence you, all right? Be open to examining those things for what they are. It's like understanding the stereotypes, I would say. We understand the joke. We can work within that and change the dynamic, too, and kind of buck the trend that we're used to seeing, all right? Lean the other way. Provide the counterpoint, I would say. In any event, biased. What's the next one? You're compulsive. I don't know. Compulsive is, just acting on things that you shouldn't be, knee-jerk kind of thing. I think that must be the opposite. I'll have to look it up and leave it in the thing so that you understand. I went and looked it up because maybe I don't understand the definition too well. But compulsive, that leads me to think that you're acting on things in a knee-jerk fashion. Though I didn't pick up on that in the breakdown, so I'm thinking I'm gotten the definition wrong. Repeating myself again. But let's go with what I think it is, all right? You know what? If we're apt to jump on things, you know what? That could be a bad thing because you're not thinking enough. So that's why I think it's outside that. You said to be a planner. Yeah, you know what? I think sometimes it's great to be reactionary. Put your hand on the stove, hey, you're pulling it off, right? But sometimes maybe we pull it off too quick and you're apt to break all the dishes. I don't know, right? But that said, proper planning, hey, you know what? Maybe you move the dishes out of the way in case you happen to pull yourself off there. Maybe that's too into the weeds. But have you ever noticed that you think about something like, man, I should move those dishes because I might just burn myself and knock them down. And then you do it and you're like, shoot, I should have done that. Because you're thinking like, I'm just thinking too much about it. No. Go by that impulse, I would say. So a weakness in that respect, I don't know. All right. It's probably good that you act on those impulses. But don't get too carried away with it and let it bog you down. All right. So good, I would say, advice in general, even if it doesn't go down with the right definition of compulsive. All right, moving on. Self-unaware. I don't know that I really picked up on this one either. But that said, maybe you're not aware that you plan too much. Why can't I get out of this rut? Hey, you know what? It's just because you're putting too much time into one specific thing. Put a little bit more time in the execution. Or maybe you're just not aware of some of the other things. Again, I didn't really pick up on this because you're a big picture kind of person. maybe that's it. You're not aware of what's going on within. All right, how is that a strength? I don't know. Maybe I like to use this one sometimes when I can't think of anything else. Let's say you're at the job, right, and they want to give you some kind of project that you know you're not a good fit for. Ready to lean in on that self-awareness type, self-unaware aspect. Well, I don't know what's going on around here. And they're apt to give it to somebody who is aware. I know that sounds a little unsavory, what you're trying to get out of something by using your weakness. But hey, you know what? I would say that's a strength in that respect. You got to find the right person for the job, and it might not be me, because and so maybe they need something too, like, hey, we need you to put in all your personality on it. Well, I don't really know who I am. Like, okay, yeah, you're right. Let's go find it for someone who does know who they are. All right, but hey, you know what? If you build up that self-awareness, one day you will be that person that they want that project for, I would say. Though that probably doesn't sound like something you want to do because they're lumping more work on you, but I think you get the idea. Any event, hey, a little long in the tooth with this particular example. I should probably read these beforehand, but I like to be surprised because then this is the kind of stuff that happens, all right? Watch me struggle and flounder, so hopefully you got some entertainment value out of it, if nothing else. Watch me sound like an idiot, I suppose. But that said, those have been your strengths and weaknesses, so let's move on to those born on this day. And when we get into those born on this day, not only do we get to see who shares your company, but something I like to do is approach it with the from the perspective of figuring out our passions, all right? Too often I get out in the world, meet folks, ask them what they do, and more importantly, if they like it. And a lot of times they don't. And I think it's just because they got into a job right out of school, or they just got into a job to help make ends meet. That said, they haven't had time to necessarily figure out what their passion is, or what they even like to do, and to try to find a job that endorses that. Sometimes it can be hard. Maybe you don't fulfill the needs they need for it, so you got to go with something else. That said, this kind of leans into the idea of figuring them out specifically for those of you who may not even know, because I think it takes time, effort, and energy to figure those things out for ourselves. And a lot of the time we don't have time to carve out for those things. At least we don't think we do. So hopefully this just serves as an opportunity for you to start thinking in that way. I need to carve out some time to start figuring out my passions, or if I got them in my mind, to start chasing them down. So that's right. Let's look at this as some inspiration, all right? Start stirring up those fires. Because if there's anything I can hope for you on your birthday, it's that you're out there chasing after a passion, or something that can help you find some fulfillment in this life. So let's dive in with our eye on that respect, and let's just see who shares your company. That could be interesting in and of itself. So here we go. Those born on this day. We have Alexander Graham Bell, the Scottish-American inventor, the telephone, the photophone, the recording cylinder, and the teacher of music and speech to deaf children. We also have Jackie Joyner Kearsey, the U.S. Olympic 3 gold medal winning heptathlon, perhaps, a long jump champion, and a world heptathlon, maybe that's it, heptathlon record holder. All right, I think that one's just a bunch of the different track and fields events all together from when I looked it up, though that didn't help me learn how to pronounce it. In any event, moving on, we have Gilbert Adrian, an MGM motion picture, a fashion designer, Milton Avery, a self-taught painter, Ronald Cyril, an illustrator, and drawings in The New Yorker as well as Life. We also have Perry Ellis, the designer, George Pullman, an industrialist, and the railroad sleeping car inventor. Interesting. I wouldn't have thought somebody invented that. We also have Rod Hackney, the British architect, Solom Alchem, perhaps, Ukrainian Jewish short story writer, responsible for Red Cavalry, and also a playwright. We have Jimmy Garrison, jazz bassist and member of the John Coltrane Quartet. Jean Harlow, a film actress, a sex symbol, and died at 26 of uremic poisoning. Not quite sure what that is. I'll have to look that up. We also have Diana Barrymore, the film actress and daughter of John Barrymore, and died at 39. Well, a lot of early deaths here. Right, let's see if we can buck that trend, all right? We have Barney Biggard, a jazz clarinetist and a tenor saxophonist. We also have George K. Miller, the Australian film director of The Witches of Eastwick and producer, writer, and a physician. I wonder if they did Mad Max too, not quite sure. The K in the George K. Miller's throwing me. All right, moving on, we have Herschel Walker, the football running back, and the Heisman Trophy winner, as well as an NFL rushing leader. We also have Lee Radziwill, socialite, jet setter, and Jackie Kennedy's sister. We also have William Godwin, a British novelist and a political philosopher, and Mary Shelley's father. We also have Leonard W. Doob, D-O-O-B, Doob, psychologist, writer of A Crocodile Has Me by the Leg. And we also have Ion Luscu, perhaps. Was it L-L-I-E-S-C-U, or it could be an I at the beginning of that. Names get me sometimes, folks. A Romanian president, nonetheless. And we finish off here with Jesus Lozoya Solis, Mexican pediatric surgeon. All right, that's the names often get me, folks. So let's butcher things on my side of things. It's not done in malice. It's just hooked on phonics. Isn't a useful tool with the names a lot of times. That having been said, I know it's a big ask, tall order to try and take inspiration from other folks' accomplishments. But hey, like I said, maybe if I can just stir the fires up for you, help you start focusing on that as an end unto itself, so that you can find something fulfilling to start chasing after as you're getting on with the day in the morning. Hey, you know what? That's one thing I can wish for you on your birthday, if nothing else. So get after it right there and start carving out time to figure out a passion. That said, that essentially rounds out your birthday reading, except to say your season is winter, your sign once again is Pisces, of the Pisces II period specifically, first day of it, and your quality and elements is mutable water. And this has been March 3rd, the day of design, all right? From The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and used Elfers. I have an affiliate link for this book down in the description, right above a personal message I like to put together for the birthday boys and girls, ladies and gents. But that said, this book makes an excellent coffee table book if you're looking to maybe try to crack the ice with company you may have over. I know you like to live a private life, but you know what? Maybe you find yourself in the position of needing something to help you break that ice. And this is going to get it done for you. That's how I was introduced into my life, and I've been all the better for it. So in any event, book having been relayed, you know where to get it if you're interested. That said, I just want to once again say happy birthday, folks. That's what's important around here. Wishing you a happy birthday. All right. And for everybody else who joined us, hey, I hope you enjoyed yourselves, took something of value. For the return viewers watching me struggle with the copy or just trying to make my strengths and weaknesses work. You know, like I said, it's been a week of me struggling with as much. That said, hey, I hope to see you on your birthday read if you haven't been here before. But that said, before I take us out, I just want to remind you to get out there and let the universe show you it's with you on your side. All right, stack up some synchronicities, some coincidences if you like. I think they're interchangeable, and I think you're apt to see the magic in it. All right, I can hope that for you too. So you got to be doing something fun on your birthday, or if you didn't do something fun on your birthday, make up for it by see, taste, touch a little bit of the magic out there. All right. So that said, once again, that's been your birthday. So I just want to once again wish you a happy birthday. All right. It's been a pleasure. I want to thank you for the pleasure of your time. It's been a privilege to celebrate with you. All right. So once again, happy birthday. Take care of yourself and foster some of that self-awareness. All right. Get out there and improve upon yourself. I'd say you already had a lion's share of good qualities. Just keep improving. All right. So take care of yourselves, and once again, happy birthday.